Alright, boys and girls. Tonight, Mike Dangerous dies on camera. I already talked about weird fighting games. And, it was lit. But when you really think about it, all fighting games are kind of weird. Drinking wine for this one, because I'm a little bougie boy. So I love Tekken. Tekken revolutionized the 3D fighter. Traditionally, fighting games exist on the X and the Y axis, and you chip away at your opponent's health until you win. Simple concept. Fighting games hold a special place in competitive gaming because you're not reliant on a team or the luck of RNG. It stands for random number generator. It is entirely based of your understanding of the game and simply you being able to outplay your opponent. A lot of people compare it to modern chess. Tekken has the added benefit of the third dimension. What that means is you can sidestep into the background or the foreground. Every character has a unique moveset based on the combination of 4 buttons. It's beautifully complex in a admittedly simple controller layout. It's a sophisticated fighting game that has been revered in the fighting game community for years since its first launch. A fighting game this sophisticated must have a captivating, mature storyline, right?
What do you mean the bear runs the family business?
You thought the kangaroo with the boxing gloves and the velociraptor find themselves in a love triangle, and I don't even know what Gon is supposed to be.
Dude, what even is that?
So like, where do I start? Tekken 7 starts with a child being thrown off a cliff because f them kids. So Tekken is essentially a fighting tournament called King of the Iron Fist. A tournament sponsored by the Mishima Zaibatsu family, a dynasty that specializes in extreme facial hair. Pretty standard affair for a fighting game story. Street Fighter has the World Tournament, the Mortal Kombat has the Mortal Kombat Tournament, you know, the works. You know the drill. So in Tekken, there's this dude named Kimbachi Mishima, which has the hardest beard of all time, and he's known as the world-renowned fighter. So his son Heihachi trains to have drip, just like his dad. But then he meets this chick named Kazumi. She turns out to be the fucking devil. Fearing his son has this devil gene, he proactively throws his son off a cliff, as you do. But of course, this is Tekken. Kazuya survives, and he is pissed. Years later, Heihachi starts the King of the Iron Fist tournament, which Kazuya enters for revenge, throwing Heihachi off a cliff the same way his dad did years prior. I wish I could throw my dad off a cliff if I knew where he was. Dad. But of course, that's not the end of it, you silly goober. We still got 9 games left. The rest of the blood feud is basically just the grandkids getting involved. The f***ing bear inherits the family business. Then there's this ancient fighting god, all of which coming to a beautiful close in Tekken 7. You see, here's the thing about fighting games though. They have a full cast of characters, each of which with their own story depending on who you play the game with. And we'd be here all day if we covered all of them, so here are some of my favorites. So King is a classic Tekken character. He's this wrestler that wears a jaguar mask and has a tail and sounds like a jaguar.
Furry?
So King started life as a street-fighting Mexican delinquent who was rescued by a Catholic priest and would one day become a priest himself. His only dream in life was to open up an orphanage for kids like himself. So logically, he becomes a wrestler. He enters in the King of the Iron Fist tournament to win the money he needs to enter the tournament. However, he would come across a very interesting rival, Armored King. It's the same character, but like, not really. Anyway, he wins the tournament, and all the lovely pixelated children dance around this low-poly interpretation of King, who for some reason refuses to take his mask off. Leroy Smith is a new character to the Tekken family, and he has a puppy. Leroy lost his family to the violence in New York as a child, which of course is tied to the Mishima Zaibatsu. Somehow, Leroy became the king of martial arts, as well as the king of the drip, and entered the King of the Iron Fist tournament to enact his revenge on the Mishima family. Also, T-Pain cosplayed him. It was lit. Now, fighting game stories are fun, but the real story are the friends we made along the way. But fighting games go beyond just the story itself. Esports, in and of themselves, can contain hype that your stepdad feels when the Colts lose at the Super Bowl. What separates esports, and in particular the FGC or the fighting game community, is the accessibility of it all. Accessibility? I'm not that drunk. I'm a little wine drunk. Just like your mom. If your mom is single, tell her to give me a call. Esports are global, and there's something special about a player's come up. You know, the underdog stories are so real. Like a Korean kid sweeping tournaments with a low-tier character. A player that isn't low-tier God. Low-tier God. So, for clarity, a low-tier character is a character that isn't considered viable for competitive play. Basically, a character that lacks a proper tool set for high-level play, or a character that takes just too much time to master. Think Pichu in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Rongchu, for example, is a Korean player that swept tournaments with Panda, which is a character you never saw at tournaments. Panda just wasn't considered that good, and Rongchu wasn't some prodigy either. He definitely had an uphill battle to fight. Kudongs and Ni were just two people that Rongchu couldn't beat. It was the Tekken World Tour that he would come face to face with his demons, pulling out higher tier characters in an attempt to best his opponents. It just wasn't enough. However, he fought his way through loser's bracket with Panda to find himself facing up against Ni once again, destroying him with the bear we all know and love. Next up was Kudons with Devil Jin in the grand finals, resetting the bracket like the king that he is, taking home the championship with a low-tier character. You see, the fun of fighting games is just picking a character you think is cool and just running with it. Characters like King are considered high risk, high reward. He's what's known as a grappler, meaning most of his moves are centered around grabs, essentially. Just like a real wrestler. Miss a grab and you're gonna get punished. But land a grab and the crowd goes so hype. This is what initially attracted American player Lil Majin to King in the first place. Now, America was never really a strong region for Tekken players. Korea and Japan normally walked Western players. I mean, bodied. Free. Made us look like fools on the main stage. So the rise of Lil Majin as a player definitely piqued Western interest in a game like Tekken. There's something special about watching the crowd go crazy whenever Lil Majin plays, and it paved the way for players like Anakin, who is now a top 10 player in Tekken. In the world, the tournament arc, if you will, is always exciting and very real. The rivalries, the upset, the passing of crown from country to country, it's an exciting feeling to be a part of. It's like being a fan of the World Cup, or being really invested in who's going to go to the Super Bowl, or if you're really into Formula One. Arslan Ash is a player from Pakistan. The Tekken story really is a global one. There's something special about the way we watch esport players, and it's oddly very personal. Instead of a sports team that you rep because it's from your hometown, you're repping one person, the underdog, because he represents your entire country. Sometimes you're rooting for the person who picks a difficult character because he likes the showmanship, or you're rooting for someone who plays the panda with a purse. Man, I have no clue how we got here, but I am so glad that we did. So what do you think? What are some of your favorite stories from watching esports at the FGC? I mean, there's a 10-part documentary on the Smash series. Hell, there's even one on this channel regarding a charity event that was thrown in Orlando. And prior to that, I shot a Smash documentary on the South Florida scene. The FGC really is, I think, one of the most entertaining stories in fighting game history of all time. Just pick a game. They all have interesting stories behind them. If you're not into fighting games, I know speedrunning has similar underdog stories as well. Just in general, what are some of your favorite gaming-related stories? And if you're not into the FGC or esports as a whole, tell me why you're not, because I'm really interested to see what the other counter-argument is. And beyond the whole, it's not a sport, it's not athletic. No, what is it that keeps esports from being interesting? You know, and I mean that as it's a genuine question. What what is it about esports that turns you off if you're not into esports? As always, please leave that discussion down below in the comments, and also on our subreddit if you're interested. And if you really want to get down and dirty, you can hit us up on Patreon. We have some perks like sweaters if you're in the higher tiers, and we have a Discord where you can come and talk shop with me. And I would love to hear from you. I love starting discussions. That's kind of the whole point of this channel. We love to hear from you, so as always, don't forget to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe. I'm your boy Mike Dangerous, and this was Talking Shots.